Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to week 2 of our course. In this little guide on the side clip, I want to give you some feedback from week 1 and also kind of position you for what you'll be encountering in our reading here for week 2. So let's do those two things in order. First of all, the feedback. I want to say that your written work for week 1 has been, for the most part, very, very good. You really did follow the assignment and have produced good, well thought out, reflective and introspective kinds of essays, which is indeed what the assignment is intended to do. There were a few cases, however, where I think there were some issues, perhaps in brevity and also in presentation, that I want to speak to just a little bit right here. First of all, keep in mind that we do not have a term paper requirement for this course, which is sort of interesting in the sense that one of the objectives of our course is to promote your facility with writing and to improve upon it and so forth. From an academic point of view, this really means clarity, exposition, insight, presentation, all those kinds of things. And as I say, most of the essays were just fine in that respect, but I just want to speak specifically to those of you who perhaps have had some comments regarding writing. First of all, let me point out once again that I have produced a document called Writing Standards for this course, in which I have listed many of the kinds of errors that tend to cause people problem from a formal grammatical spelling point of view with their writing. And I have done that with the intent of providing you a checklist of sorts that you can use if in fact writing is not your forte, or maybe by your own admission you might say, gee, I'm not maybe the best writer in the world, but I would like to improve. So I would hope that you will go ahead and take a look at that document and use it as a checklist to help you, because clearly there are some cases where this needs to be done. There are more mistakes there than would be attributable ordinarily to typographical kinds of errors. So be sure to check for spelling and for grammatically proper construction, reflect proper nouns as is appropriate, proper spelling, as I say, is important, punctuation is important, and one of the things that tends to get a lot of people is they start to develop an idea and they run with it, and they have an incredibly long run-on sentence. So really what you need to do is to break those long run-on sentences into shorter ones that are pretty much a straight declarative kind of statements, and I think that'll get you out of a lot of trouble. Kind of on a personal note, I would simply ask you to try to step into my shoes and realize that when these assignments are made, it's I think an ordinary or an expected kind of a thing that many people wait till late in the span of time to actually make a submittal. So from my point of view, these things are kind of coming in en masse sort of late in the game. But again, from my point of view, I want to try to get them evaluated and commented and turned back to you as quickly as possible so that you can, profit from whatever kind of feedback I've been able to give you. And that really adds up to kind of putting me under quite a burden here to get a lot done in a short length of time. And I'm not complaining about that. I mean, it's what I have to do. But what you might keep in mind from the point of view with me as your reader in this particular instance is, gee, here's a guy who's going to have to be looking at a whole bunch of these right back to back, and I want to do everything I can to make an effort that will be, perfectly okay, and if anything, will maybe stand out. It's a kind of a competitive world out there, so I'd like to have you think in terms of, gee, I'm going to put my best foot forward, and this is going to be something that's going to really, really be good. Now, as I say it, I'll just back off a little bit, because I will tell you honestly that there has never been anything I have ever written in all my years that when I look back at it again, I say, gee, I sure could have done that better. So that's probably going to be true for almost everybody. I would be very surprised if it's not. So it's not that we're looking for absolute perfection or anything like that. I'm just asking you to comply with the standards document and recognize that if you don't do that there will be a penalty to be paid for it. So having said that, let's go on a little bit more to the second point, which is content. Now, last week, of course, we encountered culture itself and got into quite a discussion in Kotak and Cositas as to what culture is, various dimensions, and so forth. Did a very, very nice job on that. In this next reading, you're going to be encountering a more globalized view of what some of the issues, if you will, are that have to do with culture and cultural diversity. So you're going to want to be looking especially into, I think, the matter of globalization and sort of one larger theme, which would be the challenge of having a common identity versus one of recognizing individual identities that somehow or another work together in adding up to the total identity of a people or of a culture. There's a pull and tug and a natural conflict, if you will, between having a totality point of view and also one that reflects and respects, if you will, individualized kinds of views. So this chapter is going to be talking a lot about these individualized kind of views and a historical transition, a period that we are in right now and that we are going through, that it is really breaking from the past in terms of kind of unity on a large national level and getting more and more and more into a recognition of and a respect for and an attempt to honor the aspects of smaller groupings, whether it be ethnic groups or whatever. So think in terms of what's happening with respect to international trade and economic practice. Think about a discussion that's coming up that we'll talk about NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and civil society, if you will, and the contrast between those two and what's going on. There will also be some discussion about indigenous peoples and their rights and attempts to do right by them, perhaps even to the point of correcting some historical wrongs or ills, if you will. So those are going to be some of the big things that you're going to be encountering here thematically. I would encourage you to think about some of those big, broader kind of ideas to try and integrate the particulars that you are encountering in this particular chapter. But again, as with all these chapters, I think you'll find it to be a pretty interesting one. I posed for you a couple of topics for which you can write your essays this week, and I think you will find them thought-provoking. And I guess on that point, I will just kind of wrap up by noting what I regard to be the qualities of a really, really well-done essay. First of all, it should, of course, respond to the prompt that you are giving in producing it. So it needs to address the topic or the question or the issue. Secondly, words for the sake of words are not the answer. One needs to be thorough in responding, but at the same time not wordy in doing so. Finally, good essays would reflect insight, thoughtfulness, reflectivity, perhaps projections about what all this means for the future, both in the short term and the long. There are many, many other things that kind of fill in what I would call these additional qualities of a really, really well-crafted essay. But bottom line, a really, really well-crafted essay will probably require the commitment of some time and energy on your part in order to put it together and to provide a product that you hope that I will take a look at and say, boy, oh boy, that is really well put together. I really understand what that person is saying. I agree with that person. And until I see something that's better put together with a contrasting point of view, this is the way I'm going. So that's really what you want to do with your essay, is to speak to your reader, present a case, and leave that reader being on your side and reluctant to join forces with someone else who presents a contrasting view. So at any rate, those are some thoughts about writing and these essay kinds of assignments. So I hope they will be helpful for you. I know they'll probably be kind of a craw on your side, if you will, as well, because it does take some time and thought and effort. But there again, that's where the intellectual work is involved. So again, with that, I'm going to sign off and look forward to chatting with you the next time around. Good luck with your reading this time around, and I look forward, as always, to reading your weekly essays. Take care. Bye-bye.